Minneapolis is cracking under day-in and day-out ICE operations. The latest being the killing of anti-ICE protester Alex Pretti, who lost his life after being shot by a Border Patrol agent on January 24th. After Renee Good's shooting on January 7th, this is the second time in a month that a federal agent has shot and killed a Minneapolis resident. The Trump administration continues to face backlash over its crackdown on illegal immigration. Several Republicans have even called for a thorough investigation into ICE operations in Minnesota. The United States was already facing widespread unrest due to ICE presence, and now the U.S. president thought sending his border czar, Tom Homan, to the state would be a wise decision to calm the chaos. In a post on his Truth Social platform on January 26th, Trump said he was sending Tom Homan to the state, describing the former ICE director as tough but fair. Trump said his border security point man, Tom Homan, would travel to the state later and will report directly to him. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt said Homan would oversee ICE's work in Minnesota and continue arresting the worst of the worst criminal illegal aliens. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem backed President Trump's decision to send border czar Tom Homan to Minnesota, calling it good news for peace, safety, and accountability. Is Trump losing faith in Kristi Noem's leadership to oversee border control and the immigration crackdown with her team? However, Trump's Homeland Security chief was the first to paint Alex Pretti as the instigator, claiming he acted violently against enforcement officials.
Individual approached U.S. Border Patrol officers with a 9mm semi-automatic handgun. The officers attempted to disarm this individual, but the armed suspect reacted violently. Fearing for his life and for the lives of his fellow officers around him, an agent fired defensive shots. Medics were on the scene immediately and attempted to deliver medical aid to the subject, but he was pronounced dead at the scene. The suspect also had 2 magazines with ammunition in them that held dozens of rounds. He also had no ID. This looks like a situation where an individual arrived at this scene to inflict maximum damage on individuals and to kill law enforcement. About hundreds of protesters then showed up at the scene. They began to obstruct and to assault law enforcement officers. We saw objects being thrown at them, including ice and other objects, and a rampant assault began, and even an HSI officer agent's finger was bitten off. Crowd control measures were deployed to bring safety to the public and to law enforcement at the scene. And once again, I want to remind everybody that this situation and this tragedy did not have to happen. Our law enforcement are doing everything that they can to protect the public. We're praying for this deceased loved one's family and friends, but we also recognize that the Minnesota governor and the Minneapolis mayor need to take a long, hard look in the mirror. They need to evaluate their rhetoric, their conversations, and their encouragement of such violence against our citizens and our law enforcement officers. I'll remind you that Governor Walz today in his press conference said that our officers were not even law enforcement, which is a lie. He's called them the Gestapo. He's encouraged residents and citizens and violent rioters to resist. He's doxed their identities, putting themselves and their families' lives in jeopardy. He's refused to turn over murders to federal law enforcement officers. He's protected illegal criminals and protected them from being brought to justice, and even overseen a historic, unprecedented theft of American taxpayer dollars. Tens of billions of dollars were stolen under his watch, and he allowed it to happen, and in some instances may have even facilitated it.
An angry Minnesota Governor Tim Walz asked President Trump to halt ICE operations in the state after another fatal federal shooting.
I have a strong statement here for our federal government. Minnesota's justice system will have the last word on this. It must have the last word. As I told the White House in no uncertain terms this morning, the federal government cannot be trusted to lead this investigation. The state will handle it, period. Let me say something else, and this is critically important. All of us understand what happened this morning and the tragedy of it, and my deepest sympathies to the family of a 37-year-old Minnesota resident a lawful firearm concealed permit carrier, something that I've been lectured to by Republicans for decades, that is not only your right, it's your duty. We know that the potential to further inflame tensions is high, and to Minnesotans, there's a difference. We want calm and peace and normalcy back to our lives. They want chaos. We cannot and we will not give them what they want by meeting violence with violence. Minnesota and our local law enforcement, as you have seen, have done everything possible to de-escalate. Local media has reported extensively on the cooperation to de-escalate this situation. Donald Trump, I call on you once again, remove this force from Minnesota. They are sowing chaos and violence. We've seen deadly violence from federal agents again and again and again. But in contrast to that, on these frozen streets, what you witnessed yesterday was the best of Minnesotans, peacefully exercising their First Amendment rights. And I attended in the church basement hundreds of Minnesotans from all faith packing care packages for families that have been ripped apart. Despite the horrific acts by this federal government, Minnesotans are standing up for the rule of law. They're protesting loudly and urgently, but peacefully. It must stay that way, Minnesota. Minnesotans are witnessing, and we're creating a log of evidence for the future prosecution of ICE agents and officials responsible for this. They're helping their neighbors. They're walking their kids to school. They're feeding families. I salute their courage and their restraint, and I call on all Americans to see the decency that this state is exhibiting and the horrific cruelty, unprofessional, absolute abomination that is passing for what these ICE agents are doing on our streets. They think they can provoke us into abandoning our values. Well, they're dead wrong. We'll keep the peace. We'll secure the justice with our neighbors, and we'll see this occupation ends. Minnesotans and Minnesota law enforcement that continuously is being denigrated by this administration will continue to be the adults in the room, the professionals in the room, the decent human beings in the room that will keep the peace.
Mayor Frey and Senator Klobuchar condemned ICE presence in Minnesota after the shooting and sought an urgent court order to halt ICE operations in the state.
The city of Minneapolis is filing a declaration after today's shooting to encourage the judge to rule on a temporary restraining order on Monday that would grant us immediate relief and would help stop this operation that has been so harmful to the city of Minneapolis. The state of Minnesota has resulted in multiple shootings and tragic deaths. I have formally requested assistance from the National Guard to support the limited number of officers that we have in the Minneapolis Police Department. We have around 600 officers in total. Days off have been canceled. Our incredible Minneapolis police officers have been working tirelessly to do their day-to-day work, and simultaneously, they are put in the middle of these chaotic situations. We will not be able to do this on our own, and so we are getting assistance from both mutual aid jurisdictions as well as the request to the governor for the National Guard, and we're appreciative of the assistance. Our community is tired. Our officers are tired. Our businesses are tired. And this additional support is necessary. And again, the chaos that we are seeing is caused directly by ICE, Border Control, and this federal administration. Our top priority is keeping our neighbors and businesses safe, and the additional support will help us do that.
Our message is really clear and straightforward. We need ICE out of Minnesota. They are not making us more safe. As the tragic killing this morning, as people saw it viscerally on that video, shows us they are making us less safe. With 3,000 agents, which of course includes Border Control, outnumbering the sworn police officers in Minneapolis and St. Paul by 3-1, and even larger than the 10 metropolitan police departments, this is completely out of whack, completely out of balance, and now 3 people have been shot, 2 resulting in death. 1, Renee Good, mother of 3, and now Alex Pretti, a 37-year-old Minneapolis man, a citizen, also a nurse. They both have families that love them very much. This city has been under siege. And I want to make something clear. As the mayor and the police chief are doing their job for this city, it's not just the cities. It's not just Minneapolis and St. Paul, as you'll hear from the members of Congress. It is the suburbs where kids have been lured in and abducted. It is small towns all across our state, rural areas. This has gone way beyond some stated purpose of the fraud investigation or apprehending violent offenders. That's not what this is about anymore when you have 3,000 agents overwhelming sworn police officers. I took part in that peaceful and powerful march yesterday, all those peaceful people. And then we wake up this morning to this horror. As members of Congress, we are calling on this administration to get ICE out of our towns, off of our streets. It will make us more safe.